meeting to be adjourned. Thank you all very much for joining us tonight. See, we have quite a group out here. A lot of purple going on out there.
Yeah, of course.
What is that, guys? All right. Excellent. Okay, I want roll call to show that everyone is here. Our student representatives, Marciano Lua, all right, from McNair High School. And contrary to what's written on my paper, it is not Jasmine Villanueva. It is, in fact, Jonathan Henry joining us. Thank you very much, Jonathan. And Jonathan is from Tokay High. Why aren't you wearing Jonathan?
I thought it was I was going to wear underlight.
Okay, well, if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Face the flag, salute, and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'd like to report on George. Sir? Oh. Thank you. Hi. All right. I'd like to report on items out of closed session. Good. In closed session, Mr. Frederick's motion, Mr. Talkin seconded, and the board voted to approve claim 525773 by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 noes. On the second action, Mr. Frederick's motion, Dr. Talkin seconded, and the board voted to approve claim number 521893 by the following vote, 7-0. And those are the only two items that have action out of closed session. Okay, before we get into the meat of this meeting, I want to make an announcement concerning our study session. It's going to take place here 2 weeks from tonight. That study session is pertaining to the LCAP and getting down to the wire, the final adoption of our LCAP. We're going to try to do this a little differently this time. The board would like to invite representatives, a representative from each of our subgroups, from all of our represented labor groups, parents, and the ELA group, administrators, each send a representative to join us in the meeting and help us develop the priorities. Dr. Washer is going to work on that report. We'd also like the financial information on that as well. And I do want to say that the board does have final say on that LCAP, but we greatly would appreciate that last bit of input before any decisions are made. Okay? So, having said that, recognitions, 2018 Science Olympiad. Ms. Venica. Enjoy this, Ms. Venica. This is going to be your last time up here, isn't it?
Close to it.
Yeah.
Good evening, President Neely and members of the board. It is always a pleasure to come this time of the year because we love to recognize our students that have done outstanding feats out there in the world of science, and we're also acknowledging some rocketry. So I'd like to have Mr. Bob Lofstead, principal of Lodi High, come forward, and Mr. Eric Sandstrom, principal of Tokay, to come forward. Bob will be acknowledging Lodi's Science Olympiad team and his rocketry team, and Mr. Sandstrom will then acknowledge his Science Olympiad and Science Bowl teams. Mr. Lofstead.
Okay, President Neely, members of the board, I want to acknowledge the hard work that our Science Olympiad kids and our TARC, our rocketry group, have been doing. I know Mrs. Ng was not able to make it here tonight, but she's been working alongside our parents, putting in a lot of extra hours. All of you, all the kids here involved in Science Olympiad know what that involves. And we've got kids doing great things. So I want to just acknowledge all their hard work, all the parent volunteer hours that go in. and Mrs. Dean pours in a lot of extra time. So I want to have the two groups coming up. So coming up, members of the Science Olympiad, why don't you come on up? All right. So when I have them, when I read their names, I'll have them come up and get their certificate. This is a 5th place Science Olympiad team that is also advancing to a state competition. So as we come along at Lodi High with Science Olympiad, we keep making gains, and it's just getting better and better every year. And we're competing, and our kids are doing great. So congratulations to them, guys. I know how much hard work this does in the middle of all the other academics and the sports and everything else. You guys are doing a great job. So team captain Jay Sully, come on up. Christopher Washington. Elliot Locke. Rosalind Elrod. Darby McCauley. Friendly Espino. Right. Janessa Davis. Carolyn Sidley. Alex Oseguera. Is Allison here? Yes. Allison's here. Good job. Allison Oseguera. All right. Henry Mills. Ian Watanabe. Christopher Zelenardo. Chalin Valdez. Fiona Valdez. And I think did I say Darby McCauley already? Yeah. Yes, okay, so I'm repeating the list. So these are our folks, kids going on to the state competition. So real proud of them. You guys go up there and win. Appreciate it. Okay? Thank you so much. Also, we have members of the Team America Rocketry Challenge. So you guys are all up here too, correct? All right, because you're overlapping. All right, Elliot Locke again. And also Jay Select. And Darby, who's not here. Friendly. And I know Alex is not here also. So again, these are going to shoot rockets farther, higher, and learn a lot from it. So we just appreciate all the extra time. This is weekend work. There's a lot of preparation in garages, with parents jumping in and again, giving lots of time after long hours at work. So there's a lot to appreciate here, and we thanks for all the effort and congratulations, you guys. Okay, we're going to finish the year strong, right? Yeah. Of course. Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much for your participation in that, and congratulations on a job well done. Mr. Sandstrom, always a pleasure to see you.
Mr. Neely, President Neely, Dr. Washer, members of the board. We've got a couple teams to recognize, and like Lodi High, some of them are, in fact, I think all of them, from Science Bowl, are actually on Science Olympiad as well. So if we get our Science Olympiad team up here first, if we could get Tokyo High Science Olympiad team, and Miss McFarland as well. Come on. Is Nick Roshita here or not?
I think Stan's hiding.
Stan's hiding somewhere. Stan Oshita, because I'm going to name him as our Science Olympiad coach for next year, and he's going to go, what? And I'm going to say thank you for volunteering, because that's how we do it. The Science Olympiad, as you know, and as Mr. Lofsted mentioned, it's a lot of work after school, weekends, in garages, in the school gym, in the science classrooms, all sorts of places. Our students as well, when we start talking about the elementary schools and everything else, our students go and volunteer and help out at those Science Olympiad events as well. We have parent volunteers who help run events, so it's a massive undertaking, and it's nice to say that Tokay's been doing it and doing it successfully for quite a few years. So I'd like to have our coaches up here, Ms. McFarland, we've got our certificates. Come up and introduce your team and let's congratulate them, please.
Thank you. As you can see, not everyone's here tonight. We actually have 42 members with 3 teams. I'd also like to state that our varsity team took first place at regional, our JV team took 4th place, and our 3rd place team, which is mostly comprised of freshmen, took 6th place out of 28 teams. So we were very proud of all of them. The ones that are here are either not in a sporting event tonight, or studying for finals, or getting ready for AP tests. So
We do have, we have members of our team are in baseball, swimming, track,
Tennis.
softball, tennis, and most of those things have events tonight as well. So they are well represented, not just in academics, but in athletics and other areas as well.
okay, I'm going to start with Owen Canestrino. Matthew Hashimoto. Jasmine Gill. I'm looking for you. Leona Campo. Trying to find you, John. And John Sasaki.
There we go.
There you go.
And again, for Science Olympiad, I'll have to ask, how many times have we finished first?
I don't know. Oh, here she
Oh, come
comes.
on.
She's going to tell you.
Could I interrupt?
Annie Cuneo is going to come up here and share a little something. So Annie.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Annie Cuneo. I'm the coordinator of student events and activities at the County Office of Education. And I have our perpetual trophy that goes to the winning high school Science Olympiad team. And you can see that Tokay High School has been on here 19 times. There's one other school name on here back in 1999, but the rest say Tokay. And when you're on here 19 times, you can imagine there are a lot of people that want to knock you off. So for some people, when it is announced at the award ceremony, it is not a surprise that it's Tokay, but I hope that that does not take away from the amount of time and work that goes into what they put in, the coaches put in, the parents. It takes more than just hard work from the team. It takes support from the administration, so thank you. And it takes recognition from a district. So thank you for having evenings like this where you recognize academic competitions. We would also like to see you maybe at mock trial and academic decathlon, but we can talk about that maybe next year. Your district is well represented at the elementary level, middle, and high school level for Science Olympiad. And we all know that students do better when they feel connected to their school and they belong to something. And academic competitions like Science Olympiad give another opportunity. Not everyone wants to go out for football, baseball, and be a cheerleader. So thank you for being supportive. And with that, here is your trophy.
You know, Annie, when Tokay hits 20,
Yes.
I think you should
Next year.
retire that trophy to them,
Well, there
okay?
is a little bit more room. We did have to revise the trophy a year ago because we had run out of room and I had to make the font smaller so we could keep going. So we have a few more years. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then we'd like to also recognize our Science Bowl team. And for those who don't know or didn't come by or anything, we hosted, Tokay High School for the last 2 years actually hosted the Central Valley Regional Science Bowl on our campus. Quite often it's down in Modesto or other places, but for the last 2 years it's been hosted at Tokay High School. That doesn't happen without tremendous parent support, getting the events organized, getting rooms ready on a weekend to do these things. A lot of the school staff also helps out where they can, but getting the parents to come out and do things, our PTSA supports it, either buying supplies, materials, food, things like that as well. So it's a tremendous event, and I can tell you the folks from the Valley region area, we had 40-something schools competing this past February, and for the last couple of years, I can tell you they've really appreciated it, the hosting that's been done at Tokay, and again, that goes to the volunteers and the parents. Luann Casey was one of the big driving forces. I don't think Miss Casey's here, but organizing it and getting it held at Tokay High School. Within that, where's Coach Susan Heberly? Miss Heberly, come on up. Let's recognize our Science Bowl folks. Again, some of our students, again, are not only involved in Science Bowl, Science Olympiad, sports, athletics, and everything else. Susan, introduce our team for Science Bowl, if you would please.
So sometimes this is kind of bittersweet because some of these students have been there for 4 years, and they come to my house almost every weekend, and it would be sad to see some of them go. So anyway, as you are aware, Science Bowl is part of the U.S. Department of Energy National Science Bowl competition. The questions come from nationals, and Tokay was kind enough to host it. Mr. Sandstrom just did a phenomenal job being there, making sure that we have to have the rooms ready and troubleshooting when there were problems. And of course, Mrs. Casey was phenomenal. We also get a lot of support from our parents, and Mrs. McFarland and Mr. Oshida are always there. So just like everything else, it's a team effort on many levels, and of course, Mr. Heberly there seems to always be involved. He actually,
No choice.
Yeah, he's actually co-coach, so we're allowed to take up to 2 teams. We had 2 teams this year that competed, and in the morning rounds, the 8 teams with the highest score go on to compete in the afternoon. And this year, both Tokay teams were undefeated in the morning, and our varsity team knocked out our JV team, unfortunately, in the double elimination round. This year, we played once again Clovis North, and we were. They beat us one game, and we beat them the next game, and it came right down to the wire, as it often does, and we came in second place this year. But I'm going to just take a little bit of time to acknowledge that all of the people who are on the varsity team won last year and went to nationals. So even though we're retiring to seniors, we have some definite talent coming our way, and I'll probably ask them to tell you a little bit about what they do. So first person we're going to recognize is Jasmine Gill. And Ruby Dillon is not here because, as you can guess, that many of the students are involved in not only athletics, but some of them are involved in music events. Owen Mastrina. And John Goble, he goes by Jack. He is our team captain, and he's also not here yet. I think he has baseball tonight. And Matthew Hashimoto is one of our seniors that's leaving. And Matthew. I really don't want him to go. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to just have the students, it's so good for the students to do this, have each one of them come up and tell you what their areas of expertise is in Science Bowl. Jasmine, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Gill, and my areas of expertise are biology and earth science.
Hi, I'm Matt Hashimoto, and my areas of expertise are biology with a little bit of math and physics.
I'm Owen Canestrino, and my topics in Science School are biology and earth science.
That's my grandson.
And that's all for now. We'll be bringing more students forward in the next few board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Before we move on, I do think that we have to, necessity, to recognize Mrs. Heverly for everything you've done and the years that you've done them. I've been over to your classroom for meetings. It used to be their garage, but now it's the classroom. And you guys just do so much. Ron, you do a little bit too. But Susan's the driving force behind this. I just think you do a fantastic job. Thank you very much from this entire district. Thank you. Tonight is a night for recognitions, and the next thing we're going to talk about is School Bus Drivers Appreciation Day, and I'm telling you what, that ought to be 365 days a year. That is a tough job, and these people do a fantastic job. I am so impressed by them.
I just want to say, Mr. Neely, that not only are they excellent at their job of bus drivers, but they all have Got Kids t-shirts and they wear them on Friday.
That's great. That's great. Most people don't know this, but that's how Lodi Unified got North Stockton. Because I lived out there, and Stockton Unified wouldn't send a bus out there because it was out in the middle of nowhere. Lincoln wouldn't send a bus out there, but Lodi said, yeah, we'll send a bus out. And they did. And through that bus is how we ended up with about 15,000 more students out there in that area right now. So our bus drivers played a very, very important part in the development of this district. Our drivers start as early as 5:25 a.m. and they end as late as 5:30 p.m. Most of them are spending 11 hours a day to get their contracted hours. And our buses travel, last year, 112,070 miles in that year. And the I don't know of any accidents. Most of those are all accident-free, I'm sure. The proclamation says. So I want to read the proclamation to you. School Bus Drivers Appreciation Day, April 24th, 2018. Whereas annually on the fourth Tuesday of April, the people of California officially recognize all school bus drivers for their continued and excellent services to the youth of the state. And these drivers are deserving of special public recognition and the highest commendation. And whereas the safety of our children rests in the hands of trained school bus drivers each school day. And whereas personal time and energy are expended by school bus drivers in obtaining training, maintaining current licensing, perfecting skills, and keeping abreast of current school bus laws through continuing education coursework. And whereas school bus drivers exhibit patience and kindness towards students, parents, and school staff in the performance of their duties. And whereas school bus drivers frequently assist students in learning and growing in appropriate interactive peer and adult behavior through counseling and or disciplinary techniques. And whereas school bus drivers often face natural and unexpected hazards in the performance of their duties. And whereas school bus drivers consistently demonstrate an awareness of and direct attention to the mechanical maintenance of the school bus and the safety conditions of school bus routes. And whereas many school bus drivers accumulate thousands of accident-free miles year after year. Now therefore, the Board of Education proclaims April 24th, 2018 as School Bus Drivers Appreciation Day in Lodi Unified District to recognize the contributions of the district's 52 school bus drivers and commend them for their dedicated service to the students of Lodi Unified School District. Signed, George Neely, Board of Education. present this to you on behalf of this district to our school bus drivers, to you to give to our school bus drivers. And please relay our gratitude for everything that they do in keeping this district running safely.
It'd be an honor to do, President Neely. Thank you very much.
This is great. Thank you to the board for recognizing and appreciating the efforts of the school bus drivers. Unfortunately, they're all at home sleeping.
Because they start at 5.
Because they start at 5 o'clock in the morning. But thank you very much. This really means a lot to the bus drivers.
That is such a tough job, being a school bus driver. And I sure do appreciate them for what they do. Continuing on, this is Public School Volunteer Week, April 16th through the 20th, 2018. Public School Volunteer Week provides an opportunity for Lodi Unified School District to honor and highlight the powerful contributions parents, caregivers, and community members provide at school and home to support student success. We need to thank our volunteers every chance we get. We could not afford the type of service that we get from them. So anytime you see them, please, especially this week, just stop and thank them for us. The other thing that we have this week, or next week, I guess, actually, how it is this week? It is this week. Administrative Professionals Week. Lodi Unified School District is pleased to participate in this observance and welcomes the opportunity to show appreciation for the administrative professionals' contributions to Lodi Unified School District team. The board officially recognizes and commends district's administrative workforce, including school site secretaries, administrative assistants, typist clerks, and all other clerical support staff for their contribution, continued excellent service. I got to tell you, one of the first things that I was taught when I became a teacher was you go learn the name of the principal secretary and you get to know her. And that has been fantastic advice. Our administrative professionals help us get through this myriad of regulations, state regulations that we have to go through all of the time. And they keep this district running, and for that we are truly appreciative. Any comments from the board on anything? Superintendent's report. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. Neely, members of the board. We were excited to have our very first Lodi Unified School District art show a few weeks ago. Want to show you some highlights. This was the best of show painting. Yeah, pretty amazing. Entitled Sound and Vision by Adia Nelson, Bear Creek High School. She came to the reception with her prom date, both of them all dressed up ready for their prom, but they didn't want to miss the reception to honor her work as best of show. So it was quite exciting to see her there and her family. The next one is Judge's Choice. This one is Untitled by Lily Brockinkle from Lodi High School. Two of our judges selected this as their Judge's Choice. Next we have another Judge's Choice, Oil Pastel Landscape by Megan Silva from Lodi High School. Next I'd like to show you the first place in the 3D category, Two Mugs by Samantha Resendez, Lodi High School. And you can't really appreciate it through the picture, but they were pretty close to perfect in shape and form. Next, we have the first place from Abstract Fantasy and Surreal. This was entitled Sisters by Amia Watkins, Bear Creek High School. Our next first place winner is in the design category. It's a wine label by Micah Bennett, Lodi High School. Our next first place winner from Everyday Objects, Berry Dessert by Sunshine Bang at McNair. She had another piece in the art contest as well that you can see if you come by my office because I bought it off of her. It was fantastic. The next first place is Landscape, Seascape, and Cityscape category. This is Untitled by Lai Tran from McNair. And the next first place winner from People, Animals, and Portraits category, entitled Joy by Han Fong and Nguyen from McNair. And this is just a sample of what was there. There were over 200 pieces displayed at Elkhorn Golf Club. We had a lot of participation from families coming to visit. We even had people who had no connection to Lodi Unified come to see what was happening at our art show. There were a couple of goosebump moments. We had a family come 3 times over the course of the 2 days, and each time they came, they brought more family members. And it wasn't a winner of any category, just a family who was very proud of their daughter and loved one who had something up in the art show. Several students were very thankful for the opportunity to display their art, so it was thank you very much for supporting that. This wouldn't have happened without Lynn Abey behind me and Valerie McPhee, so I want to thank them. They did a lot of the detail work, and of course, thank you to our art teachers for their fantastic instruction and encouragement for our students for the arts. It was quite a show. Next, I want to introduce you to a Lodi Unified star. I'm going to show you a clip here. This features our very own teacher, Madeline Britt from Murata Middle School. You may recognize the name. Her class was also a winner of the Joey Travolta Kindness Campaign film competition. So take a look at what she is doing to help.
School teacher is developing a new way to bring the classroom to her students, migrant students to be exact. The teacher is using Google Classroom, a program that allows her to upload classwork to help migrant students keep up with the rest of the class.
That's because during slow winter months, workers often take their families back to Mexico. CBS 13's annual Solemn has more on the program.
I live with him like for 3 or 4 months.
Esteban Aguilar Jr. spends his school year moving between Mexico and Lodi. He's the son of a migrant worker who doesn't work during the rainy season.
We live in December or by the end of November, and we come back like in April.
Aguilar says it's been hard for him to keep up with classwork since the first grade until now.
On the other side, you should have written Title IX.
Aguilar's 7th grade English teacher found a new way to help him and other migrant students stay ahead.
It was, last minute thought that I didn't think would really have an effect.
Last November, Madeline Britt created a Google
Buffering.
Well, while they're figuring that out, I want to introduce you to our star. Miss Britt is here. Could you please? With her students, and her very proud mother, also an excellent teacher in Lodi Unified, is also here. Holly Mueller.
New 5 Lodi school teacher is developing a new way. Until now.
On the other side, you should have written Title IX.
Aguilar's 7th grade English teacher found a new way to help him and other migrant students stay ahead.
It was, last minute thought that I didn't think would really have an effect.
Last November, Madeline Britt created a Google Classroom for 27 migrant students at Murata Middle School.
Any type of Google app, you can sync with your Google Classroom and it'll make them their own copy. And they can go on and answer questions, complete assignments. Those are the really good tools.
Britt says the program serves as a bridge connecting students from Mexico to their classroom in Lodi.
We do have a very high migrant population here in Lodi and Stockton. So giving them the opportunity to continue their education while they're in Mexico will just give them so many opportunities.
Britt says the program is a hit and it's improving migrant students' test scores, including Aguilar's.
I'm learning more than the past years.
His father says it's a sacrifice he hopes will reap a big reward.
At least get a better job than me. That's what I want for them.
Bert says the program is gaining traction at Murata Middle. Other teachers are now planning to use Google Classroom with their students as well. Yep.
Thank you.
Do I have to do a special introduction or anything?
No.
Hi, I go by Maddie, but this program, I never expected it to take so much steam and roll. So for me, this is just so exciting that my kids actually see that, you know, people are caring about them and their community, and they want to make things better and change for them. And I actually have a wonderful uncle who has contacts at Google, who has put me in contact with his contacts at Google, and I was forwarded an email today telling me to, I forgot what. Stay tuned. So it's been forwarding all over Google right now. It was on the desk of a Google director, and it landed in Google Marketing. So I have no clue where this is going. Everything has been a shock, and I am just so thankful that people are actually showing an interest in something I am so passionate about. So thank you so much for supporting it.
Thank you.
That is fantastic. To use technology like that to help the kids, that's what it's all about. And so I'm just very impressed. One of the things I'm really impressed about is you just did it. I like that.
Yeah.
Right? There's no sense in getting anybody to, no, just do it.
Well, and the dad that was in that video was actually, he came to me 2 days before they were leaving and asked if there was anything I can do. And I was like, I can put a Google Classroom together. So the fact that they've gotten recognition for this project too has meant the world to me.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
Mr.
Sir.
President.
Sir.
Well, Maddie might be surprised, but I definitely am not. I know her and her family that she was destined to do amazing things like this, and especially for our kids that absolutely positively need it. We dedicated a whole study session to our Title I programs, and this is the type of stuff that really is going to make a huge difference for our district and in these lives. So no surprise, Maddie. Thank you very much for coming here, and thank you for the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more item to share with you. You may remember that we have received a grant with, in partnership with the Lodi Memorial Foundation. We call it FLIP, Fit Life Impact Program. Students enjoyed a visit from the G-Lab staff from Lodi Memorial as part of their career education component of the program, and that's what this is about. This is through our, we use our after-school program at 2 of our sites, and they are learning about healthy lifestyle, exercise, good food, and careers in the health field. So just showing you the grant at work. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Dr. Washer, thank you very much. Ms. Gutowski, we are going to get through this time.
I hope so. Mr. Melandro.
You know what? We've seen the presentation. Okay. Would you can we bring the presentation up? We got it. All right. I think we have been through the public comments. Any questions or any other public comments on this particular item, which is the report on benchmarks, report cards, and pacing guides? All right, so we're down to board comments on that. Who would like to go first? Okay, Mr. Everly.
No.
Oh, you're fine? No questions?
Not at this point.
Anybody else? Okay, I've got a couple questions, just a few, and then we'll move on. All right. There seems that we may have an issue. I know you were very clear, at least here, to us about the pacing guide. There seems to be some confusion out at the schools about the purpose of the pacing guide and the use of the pacing guide. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would hope that there wasn't confusion, but there does seem periodically that question comes across my email about, you know, does it mean I have to be on this page at this time? We have communicated to teachers via emails and such that it's a pacing guide, that you can be relaxed about covering your content as long as you meet it within the time frame that is allowed. And I think it's like a week, a month, and then there's like a week for assessment periods. So there's leeway, and it's not a time frame that says on Tuesday you have to be on page 14. That is not the intent of the pacing guide. It's a recommendation to keep us within instructional limits for students so that we can keep pace to be where we should be at the end of the year or within process of that. We wouldn't want to go through a whole year of instruction and only cover 50% of the program. That would be not good for our students in terms of their learning, but also for our assessment processes.
All right.
So, but I would agree that there's probably miscommunication or a lack of communication because it has come to my box. Occasionally, I wouldn't say my box doesn't get filled up with it, but it seems like it keeps coming back.
Right. For years.
Yes.
Is it possible that an administrator can supersede that and say that you will stay on the pacing guide?
I don't know if that's my area to answer that question because I don't supervise.
I'm wondering why this keeps coming back up. That's my. Dr. Washer, can you weigh in on that?
Sure, it is not, that is not the district direction. So what someone does, you know, on their own, we don't know every little detail, but generally speaking, no. It has been made very clear to administrators that these are guides and that they are to monitor, but within a reasonable time frame and to look at big picture kinds of things. So, and I would say that, you know, our principals do a good job with that. They are charged with keeping instruction going and helping teachers move through the curriculum. But for a principal to say, no, you will be here at this particular time, that is not the district's intent.
Okay, all right.
I could also share that I do believe in Mr. Melandro. He sends out reports, information. I don't know how often you do that, right? A month afterwards or immediately afterwards?
We try and send out information to teachers, reminding them that this is approximately the time where you should be, and so we share with them reminders of how to administer the assessment as well as how to run the reports after that. The pacing guide that is on the district infonet, it never has a daily. As we showed, and I think Mr. Heverly, you asked a couple questions about that. So it's simply a guide to say this is about where you should be at this time. And when I was talking to Ms. Katowski, just sharing with her today, that so far this year, we've had almost 1,100 students leave one school in Lodi Unified and move to another school. So having that pacing guide ensures that wherever they go, they're generally going to get the information that they need so that we can be consistent district-wide.
Okay. All right. I would really like to see that whole thing come to an end because actually that was back when I first started teaching 6th grade at Creekside. There was that controversy as well, and I remember talking to you about it and you explaining it to me. So it's pretty much the same explanation that you're giving now, which is what, 12 years later?
A long time ago.
Yeah, so we got to find a way to put that thing to rest. So anyway, that's the only questions that I have.
I'll have a follow-up.
Okay, please.
You know, it was explained, and I understand what you're saying from your level to the school site. But a lot of times, I always try to find out, oh, okay, that's your mantra, that's what you're telling them, I get that, and so it's not a day-to-day thing, I get that. However, I always try to look at, okay, well, so what's the reality of the application? How are we applying that? And what are the results or repercussions, pro or con? So an example would be, I'm a teacher in the 5th grade, and we all know there are great variances in a classroom. So I'm a week late because the kids, I'm trying multiple ways to get them to get this block of information, but by golly, I'm 4 days late, okay? And I know that at this point, I have to have all this information because it's going to be a testing time or whatever, or I'm coming towards the end of the year. So in reality, the only thing I can do is speed up and maybe pass up some kids, or not teach it that 4 days worth of information to kind of catch up. Can you tell me what's the effect of that on the teacher? I mean, you can obviously tell what it is going to be on the students. They're not going to get it, or it'll go so fast that they can't comprehend it that quickly. So where does the teacher fit in this? Trying to make sure that what they do present is grasped by the kids without leaving too many behind. So what's the reality of that? Because they've got evaluations and so forth. How does that?
Well, one of the things, the way that we have addressed that with the report card is, if a teacher didn't finish a unit assessment by report card time, then there's simply nothing on the report card for that unit, not by quarter, and then we pick that up at the next unit. We've also decreased the number of units teachers have to cover to give them that 2-week buffer at the end, so they will be able to do that. We've talked to administrators about this is where teachers should be. If a teacher is well behind, then it doesn't. What it does is it says, ask the question. That's all. Ask the question, is there a reason? Yes, my students this year are really struggling with that, so we are trying a number of different things. Okay, so it's just moving that. I think what we're concerned with is doing a good job and making sure that the students are on the bus before the bus moves along. So there is never a hard and fast rule that if you're not able to get to the last 2 weeks of that last unit, that there is a major problem. So I think that's part of what the guide is. But again, the guide is also there to let people know about the approximate time which we need to have. But again, we never offer a day-to-day pacing. We don't even offer that. If a teacher wanted that, we don't offer that because we know, as was in the presentation, sometimes you have a class that moves more quickly, and sometimes you have a class that needs a little bit more support. And so we tried to build that time within the pacing guide.
Yeah, I never implied that day 16 you're on 16. That's not the case. Mine was more of the over the stretch of either a quarter semester, end of the year. So I want to make sure that you want to get through the material, but sometimes reality just kind of hangs you up a little bit, and I want to make sure that people aren't getting hammered for that. It's just maybe they need some help.
I personally, that's not in my realm to hammer people about anything. I do believe that because we looked at the information, the standards, and we removed a unit, that has allowed us to give some time to it. We removed the unit that would not have the biggest emphasis on our scores.
For the test.
So we are looking at things, because we listened to the teachers, there was too much, too long, too hard, so we removed a whole unit, and I think that is reacting to their needs and reacting to what they're trying to express to us. But we can't, if we don't have a guide, then we can't give people a direction of where to be at certain times so that, everybody has an opportunity to be successful.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? I think you're done. 3 times. 3 times. Wait, we have a. I'm sorry, I asked for comments in the beginning, and you didn't say anything, so I just was gonna move on. Come
I'm
on,
sorry, I thought you were going to speak on the report a little more.
please.
So on a couple of things that were mentioned, teachers do get hammered over it. That's what's happening in their life. Again, I believe that Randy Melandra's office, Assessment, Research, and Evaluation, gives excellent reports. The frequently asks, the how-tos, the very descriptive directions that he sends out, I always hear compliments about where you should be on the pacing guide is true. I think there is a little discrepancy because teachers are pointed out kind of to the day as to where they should be on the calendar of the pacing guide. Some administrators, some sites feel more pressure than others. Again, we'd like to ask to start the Academic Freedom Committee to discuss these topics. For example, report cards, and we recently got an email talking about PE wanting to change in the report cards. They're getting it. We asked to sit down at the table and talk about some of the areas that other teachers and other subject areas would like to see changed. Grading rubrics was discussed in some of the board policy later on. We'd like to be there to discuss that. Again, the far column to the right in elementary, when there is the pull down menus, some are directed not to do the pull down. Well, that's the only ones that are translated in certain languages. You have to make arrangements to log on and have your bilingual aid help you to translate personal comments that you make on there. Both high school and elementary have commented about we'd like to discuss those comments. Some of them are not, they could be changed to be more effective in communicating needs and ideas to parents. We also have administrators that are mandating certain things be put in those comments. And we think if there is a requirement upon those teachers at one site, that be determined before the start of the school year so they know to collect data. So, and it's differing from site to site. So if we are going to be totally consistent through the district, then that also needs to be a mandate and not have site-by-site changes on what an administrator wants to see on those comments. Again, we also want to bring up, as we've heard the last couple of weeks with SBAC testing, that throws off their pacing guide. And the number of days that are given for the testing and the actual testing itself is far understated in what students are going through. So again, we'd like to sit down and communicate more about the specific parts that we'd like to see updated and changed on both pacing guides, assessments, and report cards. Thank you.
Hold on, Michelle, don't run, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you came up because I had heard this and I hear this about the pacing guide. We'll just start with that one, okay? And I hear what you guys are saying, and I totally believe both sides. But someplace there we've got a disconnect. So if that's happening out there, I totally believe you. We need to know where it's happening. I mean, I'm not here person, but Dr. Washer needs to know where this is happening. Sometimes people, I mean, I'm sure everyone has great intentions about it. No one does anything here except for what they believe is the best thing for the kids, right? But if it's not in agreement with what we're saying here, then we've got to address that. So that's on the pacing guides. I hear you on the report cards. What's the procedure for us to reevaluate our report cards? How would we do that?
Lisa has convened teachers in a committee to revisit report cards, redo report cards, which has been done several times. She gets a committee of teachers together and they talk
Right.
about it and we take their recommendation, correct?
That is correct. The last time we revised the report card, we must have had at least 3 teacher meetings where we came up with a prototype, took their suggestions, added the things that they wanted added, removed the things that they didn't want. Now, that report card was, I'm sure it was maybe 4 years ago that we revised the report card. Those things that they wanted, we included, and we had a discussion. We had a working group of teachers that wanted to participate in that. We recently revised the TK report card where all the TK teachers were part of that. And they came in and they met with Randy and I and Elodia and discussed what they wanted to see on their report card because they didn't have one, and they modeled it after the K-6 report card. So we've had teachers working on the report card, we've had teachers working on the pacing. Teachers are actively involved in all of those. I don't think we've changed our pacing in 4 years. It's been the same pacing. The teachers sat down when we first made our adoptions, paced it out, brought their comments, we even did surveys, got teacher input about how they wanted to see things.
No, I think the idea of the pacing guide, I think that that's been done. You guys did a great job on it. I guess we're gonna have to do some more of it again here with new adoptions coming up. The idea is the implementation on that at the site level, perhaps in some areas, is not working, so that may be something. The report cards, Michelle, if you have specific things that Leah, as a group, wants to say about the report cards, and we've got to come up with a format to get that information in. Okay?
Yeah.
Final thing, time allotted for testing. Apparently we're not allotting enough.
Are you talking
SBAC?
about the SBAC testing? I guess that's his problem.
We provide school sites a district window, and then we ask them to select their 3-week window within that time frame where they assess students. Many school sites will only test in the morning, and they will take, a lot of elementaries will do the computer adaptive test one day, the part 1 of the ELA writing one day, and then the full write another day. When I say day, that generally is a morning where most complete that. And then the math generally is done in 2 days. However, that's dependent upon the site. We simply give them the window, and administrators work with teachers a number of times to determine what that looks like within their window. So there are, for 5th, 8th grade, 11th, and 12th grade this year, there's also the science. So that's an additional piece that we have. So our 5th, 8th, and 11th graders have a lot of assessments that they take. And I think the difficulty of site is always trying to make sure you provide students with enough time to complete the test, but not too much time. And so there's always that issue. But we provide the time, we provide the listing of approximately how much time it would take to do those, but that is implemented differently at different sites. The window is 6 weeks. The school sites have 3 weeks. Usually they do ELA 1 week, math 1 week, and then they have a 3rd week that is for makeups.
Okay.
And it's been recently communicated that within that window, there doesn't seem to be enough time within the testing of SBAC to achieve everything that they need to do teaching-wise and meet with that pacing calendar. And so there, as the testing, and I think, I'll be honest, I think science was the breaker. That pushed a lot of people into, and it was communicated to me this morning that the science test did seem very different this year than the pilot last year. And so the amount of allotted time for that has been very different and extremely long and not what they counted on. But this, at the same time, teachers are also reporting that the ELA and the math are also taking more time than what was scheduled. And so with certain, clarify me if I'm wrong, Mr. Melandro, the starting of each different part of the test occurs the same day for a site. So if we're starting the first part of ELA, we have to wait for all of my grade level to finish before I start the performance task, and finish the performance task before I go on to the next. And I believe that's where some of the teaching discrepancy, pacing guide, and SBAC is coming into play, is this testing period along with the teaching period and the pacing guide. So I think, and again, teachers are feeling the pressure on their sites. So I think maybe that's where it's even more exacerbated the last couple of weeks.
So what would you like to see to eliminate that? Or to
Well,
change that?
I think science this week kind of put us in a different zone because, and it was, this morning I heard from an administrator, I heard from teachers this afternoon, that this was not like last year's science test.
50 questions, I understand on that thing.
So with that, I think there needs to be that communication about, okay, planning for next year, planning for pacing, that full on, everybody communicating and what needs to be changed and where do we need to go from here. Hence the idea of having a committee to talk about how these different things have been changing. Curriculum has changed, the teaching has changed. We're using other resources to teach lessons, bringing in science standards and NGSS at some sites is already happening. And so that affects part of this.
So are you suggesting another committee besides Curriculum Council that would work with our curriculum department on this?
Yes, I believe that is what we're asking.
Okay, then I tell you what, why don't you and I talk about that away from here? Well, we can sit down and look at it, and then, or you guys sit down and talk about it. I can see that happening, but these are things that do need to be addressed.
Mr. Neely, I think that the superintendent should handle all this. All these information that you're giving, Kathy should know and then relate it over to the superintendent of elementary ed with the committee here with the benchmarks and resolve something.
I think that's a great suggestion. Well, you know what, though, Mr. Nava?
There was an
I've
ask.
listened to this.
Yes.
For
There was an ask already.
Okay.
Listened to this for too long, and I would like to have some resolution to it. So if we can do that, I don't care how it's resolved, as long as it gets resolved.
Mr. Neely? Just what was said in this last couple of minutes is exactly what I was going to bring up. Is I kind of wanted to know what the communication system is for these things to improve. You mentioned curriculum changes, teaching styles changes, the test itself changes. So when all those things change, we have to adjust. We have to be willing to resolve problems or to refine them to get the best thing that we can do. And I just wanted to make sure that we don't talk about it here and then it just goes nothing. Right. We have to continue this to get it going. So I definitely agree with it. We have to communicate to make things better. You cannot stay stagnant. You've always got to try to improve.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley. Any other comments? All right. Thank you guys very much, and thank you for your patience. I think Randy's out of them.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Well said. Okay, moving right along. We have comments from the public. A 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes, but is welcome to distribute any materials to the board and or staff. Due to restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding discussion topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about the issue. I have 2 cards. I'm going to begin with Ms. Grassi, Lisa Grassi.
Hi again, Lisa Grassi, Houston student parent. I'm glad Lodi News Sentinel made it just in time for my announcement. As 3 of the board members know, I found the most cost-effective solution to your Joe Cerna new site problem. I personally made phone calls, took my own time to find the most cost-effective solution without joining Joe Cerna and Houston School. I may just only be a parent, but at least I can say I put my heart and soul into finding a solution. I found the McCallum River School. I called the realtor who has told me that no one has inquired about that school site from anybody in months and months and months. So nobody did their homework like we asked as a whole at Houston School to look for Dr. Washer and Elodie Lampkin to look into it. No one did. That school just recently installed, I forgot how many portables, brand new in 2008, and redid their septic system. There are 22 classrooms on that site. This campus needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but according to the real estate agent, the owner is willing to clean up the campus and have it ready by next school year with a rental rate of about $9,000 a month, saving the school district millions. As for the super busing that Mr. Frias was talking about, there's your extra money to do your super busing. And as for Houston having low enrollment, I also came up with a couple ideas. I passed around with a couple board members, such as an early ag program, since it is agriculture land. There are plenty of options that have never been explored on how to keep Houston, and find Joe Cerna a safe place for their children. That's all. I come every week. It takes time. I have a Boy Scout waiting for me on the side of the road right now for me to come pick him up. I'm here because I care. I put my heart and my soul into my kids and the rest of the students at Houston. So I just appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, and have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Martha Snyder. Good evening, Martha.
Good evening, Mr. Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer.
I come before you tonight to say we had a successful event at Christopher McAuliffe Middle School on Saturday. The Discovery Education NGSS Academy. It had a participant list of 70. We got 40 there on an asparagus festival weekend. I look forward to sending you some pictures of the event with very much hands-on. There were several of the teachers from Lodi Unified that had gone to the STEM event the weekend before, so they had a little bit of a heads up of some of the things that were going on. So they gained even more knowledge about NGSS for next year. I look forward to seeing the follow-up from Discovery Education that's going to give us that 60-day trial for all of their textbook as well as the rest of Discovery Education streaming. And again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve our community. We did have 6 people from another school district. I think it was Elk Grove and Manteca had a person there. Lincoln Unified had a person. So definitely it was a good event and lots of fun for everyone. Thank you.
Fantastic, Martha. Thank you very much for everything you did. I know you worked hard to make that happen. That's it for the comments from the public. Next thing is consent agenda A. Are there any items that board members would like removed from the agenda? Okay. Mr. Khan, you wanted to remove something, right?
A9, the one-stop contract, we intend to bring it back to the board at a later date.
Okay, item A9 is removed, and we will bring that back. So when the vote goes forward, it will be without that. Are there any items that members of the public would like removed from the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve routine agenda A.
Second. Okay, to clarify, that agenda now is short of agenda A9. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Student vote?
Aye. Aye.
All right, calling for the board vote. Consent agenda A passes 7-0. Consent agenda, are you okay? Okay. Consent agenda B.
Mr. Neely, I move we approve consent agenda B.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Talkin. Students don't vote on disciplinary cases. Calling for the board vote. How we doing? It involves Spaghetti's theory of mysterious electrons. Remind me one day and I'll tell you about that, okay? All right. Routine personnel matters. Mr. McKilligan.
Mr. Neely, we have a typo that I'd like to point out on page number 5 under separations on the retirement of Mrs. Shaheen Abbas. We misspelled Punjabi by leaving off the I. So with that correction, I would ask you to approve the personnel matters, and we will get that corrected in the morning on the official website.
You know, I was going to talk to you about that.
Mr. Neely, I move we approve personnel matters with the correction on the I for the name.
Second.
President Neely.
Sir?
I'd also like to point out that this is a time of year where many of our very talented teachers are retiring, and I see on the list is my former neighbor and a Cal Poly alum, also like me, Charlie Holmes. And very sorry to see him go, so I was going to move to have his name taken off the list so that he can stay with us for a while longer. But there's already been a motion and a second. So.
All right, any other comments? All right, students do not vote on personnel matters as well. Calling for the vote. Wow, that was quick. Thank you. Wow. And the motion passes 7-0 again. Communications, comments from student representatives. Who would like to begin?
I can.
Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Washer. My name is Marciano Alua. I'm co-ASB president of Ronald E. McNair High School. For school activities and programs, our Linku program, or class now, is hosting a 3 versus 3 basketball tournament in hopes of exposing freshmen to group activities with other classes. I recently found out that they're also hosting another game, which is a student versus staff kickball game tournament. I don't know if it's a game or a tournament, but all these teams have to include freshmen so that they get more immersed into school culture and hopefully start to develop more. On Friday, April 27th, which is this Friday, our CTE/Health Occupations class will be hosting their final blood drive of the year. The Lodi Mexican Grill will be cooking meals for people who donate. The last blood drive collected around 90 units. Hopefully we'll be able to donate more for those in need. Their theme this year is Aloha in Hawaii. Currently our school is doing CAS testing. Our students are trying their hardest to get great scores and represent our school. Our school got the opportunity to experience E15, or every 15 minutes, a program that goes to school showing high schoolers that every 15 minutes someone dies due to an alcohol-related car accident. That was a very emotional experience. I'm glad that I got to experience that my senior year, as do my classmates. For student government, on March 30th, we had our first annual multicultural rally. The students really seemed to enjoy experiencing a really diverse group of cultures. We had Mecha, which is a Mexican Latin American dance group or club. They performed a bachata to, I don't want to butcher that. Capamilia is a Filipino represented club here at McNair. They performed a modern twist to a traditional Filipino dance. They started off with the traditional Filipino dance and they put their own modern breakdancing twist on it towards the end. Next we had Kpop, which is our Korean pop dance group. They performed a dance that you would typically see in most K-pop bands or groups, whatever they refer to themselves. And then next we had Mom Club. They did something a little different. They didn't have a dance or anything like that. They had a fashion show that they wanted to show us, showcasing traditional Hmong clothing and the history behind Hmong culture and how their people came to be, basically. Finally, we had amazing performance by our Polynesian club. The Pacific Islanders, they performed an 8-minute dance, and it was really cool because they were able to show some real traditional stuff from their culture. They had a lot of different things going on, which I thought was pretty cool. As far as performances, presentations, and events, on May 15th and May 16th of this year will be our senior grad night at Disneyland and California Adventures. On Friday, May 18th, we have our senior sunset, which is a nice way for us at the end of every year to send off our seniors with the last hoorah. On May 29th, McNair seniors will be graduating at the AG Spano Center at UOP. We're really excited for that. I think a lot of seniors are excited to get on with the next chapter of their life, whether it's college or work or military. I don't think I mentioned it, but some upcoming events that we might have are Prom, which is on Cinco de Mayo at the Waterfront University Waterfront Plaza Hotel. Our theme is Rendezvous in Red. We came up with the idea of having like roses, satin, just sort of like an elegant but more of a towards a deep red kind of stuff. And that's pretty much it for us.
Fantastic, Marciano. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Jonathan.
Good evening, Mr. Neely, Dr. Washer, and members of the board. I'm Jonathan Henry. I am the junior class president representing Tokyo High School and just elected as ASB president. So hope I don't annoy you because I'll be staying long. Upcoming events, so our student gov election is just closed, so bringing an end to the old, I guess, governing board. Our Lgbtq Day of Silence is on April 27th. There's a dance recital coming up in May 10th and 11th, and should be really good. I've been hearing really good comments about it. We have been planning a senior versus staff volleyball game for May 2nd, and I actually think one of our teachers hurt his back, so he had to drop out. We will be playing against Lodi boys in volleyball on May 15th, so back at the rival school, go purple. And then we're planning our senior goodbye rally, and we're hoping to make it a neon rally, so we're looking into black lights and figuring out that. Just past our student versus staff comedy sports was on April 20th. It went very successfully. It's very comedic. Our students are very talented in it, and I've been to a few of their shows, and it's actually very enjoyable. Upcoming events is TCAL's League Swim Meet will be at the Tokyo Pool on April 27th, and later we will be holding sections in May. And coming up on May 12th is Prom. The theme we decided on this year is Old Hollywood, and it's also at the University Plaza Waterfront Hotel, so the week after. But we got there's pool tables, ping pong tables, glass fire pits, giant Jenga. Hopefully it'll be a great night.
Oh, hopefully it's still standing after the air goes. Well, thank you, Jonathan, very much. 3x3 basketball, we should enter a team.
I don't know. We'll get me a ball for 3x3.
Your first round draft pick, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. Comments from employee group representatives.
Sure. I'll go first.
Hello, Deborah.
Hello. It's a great night here. Good evening. I'm Deborah Ladwig, president of the CSCA group. President Neely and Superintendent Washer, members of the board. I just want to thank you tonight for accepting our reopeners for our negotiation. That was on your consent, so thank you very much for that. And also the great surprise you gave us earlier, inviting us to send a representative to the LCAP study session. I look forward to that because we have been attending meetings and voicing our ideas. And we, like you, feel a great need to make sure that we can get fully staffed, especially in our custodial, and looking at ways where we can better serve the students with the people. So thank you very much. We look forward to that.
Thank you, Deborah. Good evening again, Michelle.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I want to start with a shout out, and somebody was up here this evening, and I want to recognize Martha Snyder, one of our middle school teachers, who came up to speak to you tonight about the DEN Ambassador Program. One, we want to thank the district, Dr. Washer, and the curriculum departments for co-hosting the event at Kristen McAuliffe. We had teachers, not only, as you heard, from Lodi Unified, but other San Joaquin County, actually I think almost Sacramento County also, teachers that were represented. They focused on instructional strategies, applying NGSS standards, student engagement and achievement in this field of science. Martha did a great job organizing, facilitating, encouraging teachers throughout the day, and they really got some good take-homes. We saw some positive comments all afternoon from teachers and the following day on those that attended. What an awesome event it was, and without Martha Snyder stepping up and standing up and saying, this is important for teachers, let's take this next step, we wouldn't have had it. And we have in the past had some great PD that teachers have led and brought forward. So we look forward to more of that, along with our what's happening with the RBET committee. That's all I'm going to speak to now. I know on the 2 report items, I have some comments, but I wanted to thank Lodi Unified and Martha Snyder for bringing that to our teachers and other teachers in our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anything else? Okay, moving right along. Comments from board members. Please.
You might, am I on? You might see a common theme in this, these activities that I went to. First of all, April is a really busy month, and so is May, I guess, but I'm surprised at everything that's going on. First thing I went to, it was on the 4th, was an ag fair at Bear Creek High School. The ag students at Bear Creek High School put on this fair for the elementary kids at Juliet Morgan. It was an easy field trip. They were able just to walk between the gates, and there they were on the soccer field. They had 9 stations set up for K through 3 and 9 stations set up for K through 6, or 4 through 6. They were all manned by the ag students at Bear Creek High School. Everything was interactive. The kids were having fun. I was impressed with how well prepared the high school students were. I'm always surprised when they use a trick that I never thought would work in a secondary classroom. When I heard one girl say, "Look at me, eyes on me," and it works. And the kids, they weren't paying attention, suddenly they're back with her. And this was from the high school students. So it was very impressive, and it's something that I would like to see all 4 of our comprehensive ag programs at comprehensive high schools, ag programs do. It's a fairly cheap field trip, and it's probably it's worthwhile for both the high school kids and the elementary kids. Then on the next day, there was a track meet, Tokay versus St. Mary's. What's unusual about that track meet is that it was done at Lodi High School. If you've ever been involved in track meet, you know that there's a lot of moving parts in order to make that meet go off. I just want to recognize the Lodi High School coaches who are all there. They didn't have to be there, but they were the ones that were getting out the hurdles, getting the pits, adjusting hurdles. And that made the meet go well. Again, I saw great cooperation between not just staff on their own sites, but staff from 2 different sites, and you always think, well, there's this competition going on. It's not. They were very professional. And then on the 11th, dropped by Creekside School, just to look at their back to school night. Saw a lot of kids running around with smiles on their faces. When I talked to the principal, I asked her, if you could have just one thing that make your life a little easier, what would it be? And I think you would like this, Dr. Washer. She said she needs more library books. And I said, I happen to know somebody that's very big on books that has something to do with God kids, and I'd pass that on. The word's been passed on, Dr. Washer. I thought it was, we're talking about literacy and reading at third grade level and all that. And here's a school that has a thriving library program, and they're trying to make it work. On Saturday, going back to Lodi High School, is the youth track meet, where all the elementary schools in the district had a track meet at Lodi High School. Again, a lot of cooperation between the Lodi staff and the Tokay staff and the elementary PE teachers, and again, seeing students working with the kids. And so I just, it always pleases me to no end to see that kind of cooperation with our staff. But what I didn't like at Lodi High School was that there is a real need for facilities. The track is great. There's no place, if you have a meet like we did on Saturday with all those parents, there's no place to put them. And trust me, I understand there's not much real estate to work with, but there really needs to be, we need to look at the facility around that track if we want to continue using it. For example, I'm surprised we haven't gotten in trouble with ADA, because it cannot be ADA compliant. If somebody needs a wheelchair, they're going to have to be on that track. There's no cement walkway from the parking lot or anyplace else to the track. So, Mr. Khan, that's something I do think we need to look at. The other 3 high schools are great facilities. Lodi's is poor relations when it comes to that facility. The track's great, but there's no place to put the people. Shortly after that, I joined Mr. Neely over at Tokay for the math tournament. I couldn't even ask Google how to answer those questions. Those kids were answering within minutes. Very impressive. And I was very impressed with Mr. Neely when asked to extend time. He did a great job extending time, talking about all kinds of things.
You always do.
And finally, at Crystal McCullough, they had a band cluster concert, which basically means they took all the elementary kids and the high school kids in the North Stockton area, had a concert at Crystal McCullough. Kathy Evans, Aaron Fonzie, and Joe Sandoval were, again, 3 different teachers working at 3 different sites, putting on a great performance in a very professional way. One of the things I kind of laughed at, though, and I think, again, maybe Dr. Warsh might get a kick out of this more than anybody else, a little kid that was sitting with his parent in front of me, whose sibling must be up there on stage somewhere, was reading a book. It was James, I forgot what it was. He was reading a book. He wasn't paying attention at all to the band thing, but he was very engrossed in the reading. So lots of things happening, and the common theme is we have a great staff that works well together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gnackstead. Anybody else?
I just want to tell Gary, wait till May.
Yeah, I know.
Wait till May, okay? You'll be out every night.
Yeah, you should see my
Mr. You got something?
Nope. Go ahead.
Just a couple of things here. I attended Manuel Silva Honors Assembly for the elementary schools, and Ben had a speaker there. Ben Cole, the principal, and the speaker was the principal at Live Oak, Mr. Seha, is that his name? Gave a nice little speech because he talked about how shy he was when he was a youngster, and then how he broke out of his shell, and he had those kids right there just looking at him, and it's very interesting, you know, how the experiences that people have in certain areas and certain parts of the country. He's from East LA and talked about selling some things at door by door, and then that's how he broke out of his shell, and the kids gave him a standing ovation. So that was a nice thing to do. Thank you.
That's great, Mr. Nava. Thank you very much. Anybody else? So, please.
Last week, I had a very enjoyable visit at Leroy Nichols Elementary School with Principal Susan Peterson. We watched a first grade reading class, and the board, as you all know, were very intent on the interventions going on, and I saw some extremely skilled teaching. The kids were totally engaged, and very impressive culture going on at Leroy Nichols. That was a very positive experience for me. And then tomorrow, I regret very much that I cannot attend a very special event at Davis Elementary School, and I'll tell you why in a second. But just briefly, for the last, 4 or 5 months or so, there has been a homeless family that has children in 3 of our schools, Davis, Murata, and McNair. And it's been a very heartwarming story about how those campuses have really kind of collectively, with a very warm and kind attitude, taken those children under their wings, so to speak. We were not able to provide busing for these children, and there's various reasons for that, which I understand, and now's not the time to go into that. But the mom actually walked the children to both Davis and Murata each day, and really kind of touched everyone's heartstrings. So tomorrow they're just having a celebration for what a wonderful example those staffs have set for all of the children at the schools. And I'd like to go on record, Dr. Washer, as saying that I'd like the district to look a little further in depth at busing for our homeless children. We receive special funding for that population, and this interacting in a very tiny way, as I have with this family, I researched homeless children and found out that transportation is really one of the biggest challenges they have, as you might expect. So I know we have that fleet of new vans, so I was wondering, like, maybe not a big bus, but a van type of thing. But I would like us to look into that further for the homeless students in our district. And then finally, the reason I'm not attending their event tomorrow is that, and I will miss the next 2 board meetings, at least physically I will not be here. I'm doing park ranger training at North Cascades National Park in Washington State. And so I'll be there for the next 3 weeks. And I'm hoping that I can do remote meetings. The 2 meetings that I'll miss physically not being here are very important meetings. But I won't know till I get there. North Cascades National Park is called the North American Alps because 95% of it is wilderness. And until I actually get there, I will not know if we're going to be in a nice headquarters somewhere with internet connection and a phone, or if we're going to be up near the top of one of those mountains. So anyway, I hope very much to be participating remotely in the next 2 meetings. And thank you. And oh, by the way, I will just say our Total K rep and our McNair rep, because I already have forgotten their names. You guys did a great job. You really did this first time out, and thank you for that. You made your prom sound like it's going to be a lot of fun. And so thank you for your excellent report.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Anybody else? Okay, real quick, I got a couple things. Mr. Knaxhead and I were both at that math competition at Tokay High, and it was incredible. There were so many teams were there, new teams. Little shout out to Nichols, first time there. 2 teams that placed 1 5th and 1 6th, I believe it was. So they did an outstanding job. That competition was put on by volunteers. A lot of it came out of the GATE program, and also Principal White was involved in that as well. Those kids and teachers freely gave up their own time to prepare and then go there on a Saturday. We had a little discussion, as Mr. Kunak said, alluded to there, about what it takes to be successful. And that's one of the things, is to do the things that other people don't. And that's exactly what those kids were doing with the assistance of their teachers. So that was fantastic. I'd like to see more of that happen within the district, and I'd also like to see Got Kids possibly help fund some of that. I think that's something that we should bring up to them as well. The art show, Dr. Washer, what a great idea. Lynn, thank you very much for what you guys did on that. That was absolutely fantastic. Next year, I think we ought to have an art auction, show auction on that. That would be a great idea. We could get some great bidding going on that. So what a fantastic idea. Imagine that, you know, just everything was great about that. And our teachers stepped up for it, so just fantastic. Thank you guys very much for that. Just a note, on Friday, there's going to be a plant sale at Tokay High. The flyer says it starts at 2:10. I would appreciate it if nobody showed up till 3 o'clock so I can get there and get my first choice of the plants there. But you're welcome to come after 3 o'clock on that.
Good luck.
Okay?
I'll be there at 2.
Okay, and that, oh, and gentlemen, great job. All right? It was great, great having you join us tonight. Dr. Washer, any further comments?
No, no further comments.
Okay, let's go into the reports. Item, the next step, and that would be the social science textbook adoption. Ms. Katowski, you are back on. And bring whoever you'd like to with you. Bring them all. Gentlemen, you have a good night.
You too. Kathy, sit right here. Where's Julie? And grab another chair. Okay, so I guess I need to ask you to be nice because they all said it's very scary sitting at this table. And I said, no, they'll be nice. You're board members, they'll be nice to you. So
It's a serious business.
I know, it's a
All right.
very serious business. But I just thought
Are you going to introduce everybody?
some levity, yes, if I can. Because I'm not sure I know everybody on this group.
Lisa.
Okay.
You're like a coach, you know everybody on the team.
Some new arrivals at the last
okay.
minute. So we have a representative group of teachers that are coming to talk a little bit about their grade level and their selection piece. We have Alyssa, over here, there's Alyssa, and Nicole could not make it. She's doing the other teacher duty of being at science camp, so I'm not sure which is worse, but that's okay, sorry. And then we have Kathy Peters, Beth Osterman, Charles Taylor, he was our fabulous facilitator of this whole event, and
David Nielsen.
Dave Nielsen.
From Sutherland.
Thank you, Dave. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Charles. Charles is going to talk a little bit about the whole process of the selection of the committee and the committee members, and then each of these ladies and gentlemen will speak as their parts come up.
So this is Charles in charge?
Yes, Charles is charged.
No religion.
How long?
Good evening, everyone. We start off with just the application and the recruitment process. We've actually been, we started recruiting in the 2016-17 school year in the July training. We subsequently sent out requests every quarter after that, and then started again in the first and second quarter of this school year for our recruitment. So our meetings started out in February of 2017 with our pre-rollout group. Some of the members here were on that group. That was really to get our group understanding what the new framework was requiring of teachers and how that would be impacted in the new curriculum. In November was our first official meeting in which the group built the toolkit and then started building the district lens. That was an all-grade meeting, as was January 29th when we built the rubric that would be used for all of our grading. In January 23rd, we had our K-6 curriculum fair, which we invited all of the state-approved curriculums for a short demonstration of their materials, in which all of the voting members then filled out the rubric and then selected the finalists. On the 25th of January was our 6-12 curriculum fair. Our 6th grade representatives had to pull double duty, and they actually were hugely helpful in this, and so Kathy was representative for that. Huge credit goes out to them. On February 21st and 22nd of this year, we had a community outreach to all stakeholders in which we reviewed the new framework and then the adoption process and some of the changes that were going to happen to social studies and what that would look like for the teachers and students in the classroom. On the 27th, our K-6 teachers got together again for a deeper dive into the curriculums in which they had pulled apart the curriculums, looked at the various parts of it, how they would work, and then made their final selection to go into our mini pilot. On March 1st, our 6-12 teachers also the same, a deeper dive into the curriculum. March 6th was a special day. The 6-8 class had a discussion and debrief of the data. They had collected comments from their school sites and needed an extra day to really parcel through that. On the 29th was our final decision day in which all grades came together, reviewed all the data from our mini pilot, from the deeper dives and the notes, and then made their final decision. This is our elementary members, our K-5 members. Our middle school members. You notice the middle school includes 6th grade. It was a decision of the 6th grade subcommittee that they would go with middle school because the framework is written as a 6-8 middle school curriculum. And then our high school members. Sorry. Committee makeup, there was our original pre-rollout committee, we actually had to replace 2 members because they became administrators. Teachers, there are 2 reasons why teachers were not selected for the committee were overrepresentation from the site or grade level. We wanted to make sure that we had input from as many sites and as many grade levels as possible, or teachers weren't selected due to a conflict of interest.
Give me an example of a conflict of interest.
Anyone that worked for like curriculum. So if you were a textbook, if I worked for a textbook company or I received something from the textbook company, that's a conflict of interest and goes against Edgar. So these were the state adopted K-8 programs. The 2 that are highlighted were only 6-8 programs. So the middle school groups looked at all of them, but Discovery Education and National Geographic were the only 2 programs that specifically had their own middle school group by itself. For high school programs, the 5 that we're seeing were the Houghton Mifflin, McGraw-Hill, National Geographic, Pearson, and then TCI, Teachers Curriculum Institute. This is our objective. This is was an objective that we as a group talked about, and the group started every meeting with this to make sure that every voting member understood what we were there for and what the goal would eventually be. The outcomes, again, it wasn't just to adopt the curriculum. We had to start from the ground up, so building the toolkit, building the adoption lens, designing and calibrating the rubrics, previewing the curriculum, also setting up the mini pilots, scoring the rubrics, going through the data, and then again making the final selection, as well as the group was also instrumental in starting to set up agendas for trainings that will happen in June and July. The areas of importance, this is when the group looked at what was going to be the curriculum that we'd see. This was the areas that they agreed on would take the most, I guess, the most focus. First is a blended model. It was required that anything that we looked at had to have a textbook and digital model. The extras could also be used with or without the textbook, and that it would be integrated to tools that the teachers are already used to using in the classroom, things like Google, Flipgrid, Seesaw, Edpuzzle, and Screencastify. Also, again, ELD support. It also has to be special ed supported, meaning that this new curriculum will be used in the II classes and the STC classes. A big one for the group was also it has to be engaging for students. We are talking about a subject that for a lot of students cannot be that entertaining sometimes or engaging, so we wanted to make sure that the teachers saw a curriculum that would be engaging and get kids excited about the subject matter. Also for our K-6 group, the subgroup decided that it would be really important that any curriculum that was looked at and adopted had to be able to be integrated into the ELA curriculum. And again, also obviously aligned to our new state framework. And the chapter 23 is the chapter in the framework that is used as a guideline when building rubrics and looking at any of the curriculum. These are our online resources that the group put together. The same rubrics were used at every stage, so once they were set, the group used those as well as any teacher that was part of our mini pilot. Each subgroup had to fill out a final selection document detailing why they picked the selection, and then every group member had to sign off on it. We also went through a mini pilot, so every grade level that was looked at, teachers on the committee as well as other teachers from those sites that in other grade levels would take a look at it. They had to teach at least 2 lessons from each program. They would each fill out a rubric and then collect questions from the committee to then ask of publishers. Pilot teachers and students were also given rubrics to score materials. So students and teachers also scored the materials that were not necessarily on our committees. And that, again, that's the same rubric for each grade span that was created by the committee. The only change was there was a few slight changes to students to make the language more apt for the grade level. We had over 1,300 students and 53 teachers take part and reviewed and scored materials. And then the data was then used at the deeper dives and final discussions. So I'm going to turn this over to our K2. Dave?
Okay. Yeah, we decided to go with the studies weekly because we felt that it was less textbooks that we needed. We already had plenty of room and then don't have a lot of host storage space, so we could use that. They had online available with the readers, the level readers, so we didn't have to find another storage space to put more level readers because we had several with our ELA adoption. So this way we can print them out. The online version seemed a lot more teacher friendly. We could also move the units with our with the social studies to match what we were doing in the language arts. So it was pretty flexible for teachers to move things around and still be able to cover what we needed.
I teach 5th grade, and so I was part of the 3rd through 5th grade. A big, something that we really wanted to focus on was the content. And the content that these publishers offered, we wanted it to be not just a glossed over version of events in history, but something that the children can really dive into and understand. And we felt that McGraw-Hill did a really good job with that. It also has 3 different texts, if you will, that are used in the classroom, and teachers have flexibility in how they want to use those texts, especially if we do want to start integrating with the language arts program. This program allowed that integration very easily. So, and it also had the internet component that we liked. And so this was our best choice.
So at the middle school level, and I just want to do a little bit of shout out to Lisa Katowski and Charles Taylor. This was a long process, and they did such a great job of facilitating it for us. At the middle school level, we chose National Geographic. This is a new program. It's got a lot kind of going for it. It's extremely engaging for students, which was at the middle school level our highest priority. We have a unique population in middle school. We have kids who are thinking about other things besides school a lot of the time in 6th through 8th grade. And I have a 7th grader myself right now, and she was at Lodi Middle when these two finalists were being piloted. And she would come home from school excited about history, and that's not something that you hear very often from middle school students. And so I had the benefit of seeing both of these curriculums from both the parent perspective and the teacher perspective. And we really felt as a whole that the National Geographic was a really exciting program. It's very new, it's very engaging, it has a strong online component. What we really liked about it was not only the engagement, but the differentiation that it provides for the students, because we do have accelerated classes, we have intervention classes, we have all different levels in 6th, 7th, and 8th going on. The National Geographic really served that purpose well. Something else that we liked about the National Geographic was we feel that history is one of those subjects where we need to be out of the textbook quite a bit. The textbook in history, middle school should be a jumping off place, because if there's ever a subject where you want face-to-face interaction, it's in history. We want the kids talking to each other, we want them engaging with the topic, debating past historical events and what's gone on and what we need to look ahead for in the future, and so we chose National Geographic.
Before we move on, since you got that slide, or you had that slide up there, the representation, you show 73.3% for National Geographic. And what is that? That's not of the total report.
No, that was that's the final results of the voting from the committee.
From the committee?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not related to the slide before that that says that was the mini pilot, what's your role?
No, that's the total number of responses for middle school, 370 responses. The data for which I just happen to have, actually, the results, the aggregate result was, I believe, for students and teachers, it was 28. If you broke down our rubric of like the total sum, National Geographic beat out McGraw-Hill 28 to 25. So, does that make sense?
28 to 20.
The sum of our rubric. If you added all the rubric together.
Got it. Okay.
So
4-point rubric.
Right. That was for teachers. I believe students and
that's pretty close.
The students, it was a lot different. It was, I believe, 34 to 12.
Okay.
So and that was, again, like Kathy perfectly put, that was the big sinker for the middle school, was the engagement part. Was that the teachers and students felt the engagement part for middle school using that program.
Right.
That's what would get kids excited in the classroom, which then makes them want to come to school, makes them want to take part, and then excel in the subject.
Right. Okay.
For the high school, 9 through 12, we didn't mean to end up with the same publisher for all the core subject areas, but it happened to be that person was the best fit for 9 through 12, and then McGraw-Hill for sociology, psychology at the 11th and 12th grade. We chose Pearson because it was a really, we thought, effective balance between a use of technology, availability, ease of use for both students and teachers.
Students are able to download units and take them on their mobile devices if they don't have internet access to wherever they're going, and we thought that was an important component to have that availability. As well as the textbook itself and supplementary ancillary materials were available both online and in hard copies and able to print. We felt that when we piloted it, it told the best story of history on all of the grade levels. Students that read through Pearson found it more engaging, easy to read. They felt it was talking to them like a narrative rather than just outlining a bunch of facts. They have great bold graphics in all of their books. And we felt that it was flexible enough. We had Scott from Lodi High for the special ed department that was able to give his input, as well as Dave Johnson from Liberty and Continuation that stated it would work for him as well because of the flexibility online, as well as with the Pearson Publishing Company. They are also going to be checking out as a class set, which is important just in case the internet option does not work out, and to have the actual physical book in their hands. We know that students want that as well. The 21st Century Skills, Pearson has actually great professional development videos online for the teachers as well as for students to use for improving their communication, using online materials. Several of their, what they call quests for each chapter, are project-based learning, and some do integrate the use of technology, presentations, communication skills that we all feel end up as being part of our responsibility to pass on to the students. The Streamline Online, many of these publishers offered, they all offered online components, but some were very heavy and very weighted down and seemed to be too much for both teachers and possibly even for students who had talked, we've talked a lot about them, about their balancing their screen time, and we felt that Pearson did a really good job in allowing us and students to manipulate and use the devices easily without becoming too sucked into it or getting lost in the format. Pearson also does interface very well with Google Class, and the majority of our teachers are using that as a way to communicate with their students, and that was another plus for us, as well as their ability to work with our tech department to keep our list of our student rosters updated whenever we have new students coming in. So we felt that Pearson overall, and it is also very very effective for us, I believe, and a plus for the students to have a continuum of publishers from 9th grade to 12th grade. They will not have to learn new formats, new login procedures, because the formats are all similar, regardless of whether it's a world history, U.S. history, government econ, etc.
So Beth also talked a little bit about how we also adopted the 2 high school course electives of psychology and sociology, and that was McGraw-Hill. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So it came down basically to, I believe, 2 publishers, but McGraw-Hill they felt had the most appropriate content for high school students. The other publisher that they did pilot had chapters and content that was using college students as examples, and they didn't feel that was appropriate for our high school population. The McGraw-Hill format online is different than their online format for all their other subject areas. So the teachers at the school sites that do psychology and sociology all found it user-friendly. They like the case studies that McGraw-Hill used for sociology and psychology, and we're able to communicate that between the 3 school sites that offer it as a semester course or as a year-long course.
So the last thing that the subgroups did, once they made their final selections for what they'd like to recommend, they were also tasked with putting together kind of an agenda for rollout. What do teachers really need on the first day? And so the four questions were the kind of things to consider that moving into training is what they'd like to see. First is, what do they have to know? What does the teacher absolutely have to know on day 1? Also, things that have to be covered now, and then what can wait till later in the year, or that can be done in-house. How should they be broken up, especially for elementary? How can I fit this part of this social studies component into my regular day? And then what kind of support are teachers going to need for a new program? So what can we as a district then help those teachers with throughout the year?
And our last thing that we want to talk about is that we do have some, should we decide to move forward with the social studies recommendation and selection, In June, we do have teachers that are anxiously awaiting to attend a June session on their new materials. And then we have included them in the July professional development days for the teachers that are unable to attend in June and would like to come in July for the materials. So we're open for questions at this point.
Okay, here's what we'd like to do. The board, please direct your questions currently to items that they've addressed, or questions about procedure or something like that. Then we're going to turn it over to the public comments, and then we'll come back to the board for comments. Okay? Go ahead, please.
Oh, great, all right. I noticed, Beth, that for the 9 through 12 high school, you use Pearson, and your comment, and I think I agree with that, is that it's consistent all the way throughout all 4 grade levels. Would that be appropriate for all grade levels to use the same publisher? I mean, we've chosen McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Choice. You know what I mean? Should we use maybe Pearson for all grade levels?
If we could do something like that, yes, that would be maybe appropriate for a district to adopt the same publisher from K through 12. That doesn't always happen because maybe a publisher is accepted under the K-5 program, but not accepted for the 6-8 program. So we're limited by those that are recommended by the state board for our K-8 programs. High school has much more leeway because there's not a recommended list, but our textbooks for K-5 usually come from the CDE. So
Okay.
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's so impressive that you all are working together as a committee. I mean, it used to be where you worked in total isolation, where each high school chose their own books, truly, just like all the 3, well, it was 3 high schools at that time, we each had our different books. So, I did the math, it looks like you had like 37 people on the committee. So, my first question is, were all 37 fairly active, like attending? Yeah, that's fantastic.
We did everything electronically as well, so everything we did or the group did in person was also backed up in the Google Classroom. So anything that went on, if a member couldn't be there and still had something to comment on, they could use the online messaging to help out with that.
Wonderful. So they were in the loop then?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
This question is a little bit odd in a way, but in the high school level, used to be where the textbooks were written at about the 5th grade level. What is it nowadays? Did they happen to say?
The LUT style is on, when we went to several of the publishers and we did ask, because we noticed there was a difference between even some of the publishing groups, that they are at grade level, 10th grade, for world history, because I was on that one, I looked at it more closely.
Okay.
It is 10th grade reading level, but some of these, like Pearson, for example, does have a workbooklet with summaries that are of a lower LUT style
good.
for student
Okay.
understanding. But the main textbook, which can be translated in audio for Spanish, as well as read in English, is of a 10th grade reading level. We really, the publishers did not want to, most of them, wanted to hold a pretty high standard for reading, and the supplementary materials would then help bring up the reader that needed aid, help, assistance, and then they have supplementary materials for the more gifted students that are not in an AP course.
And
So it is at 10th grade reading level.
Oh, thank you. And I'm betting that demographically, like you have kids all over the place in terms of reading levels, so obviously that was taken into consideration. Oh, yeah, okay. And then, let's see, what else? Oh, just that piece about our EL population, the special ed and all that, taken into account at all different levels, it looked like, yes. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll probably have more questions in a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Gass. Anybody else?
Yes, I do. On the high school one, it did talk about Google integration, blended, and 21st century skills. I think some of those are the same, some of those have a little bit different. But the blended, can mean a lot of different things when you see the word. This is blended with textbook and digital, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so what do the digital components look like? Do they seem like they're easy to operate? Do the kids really like them?
From the, unfortunately for Pearson, some of these, there were some technical login issues on the side of the publishers to get the kids able to have each an account for them to have. But those,
I'm sorry?
to set up an account for so a student
okay,
could actually use
got
it themselves, and a piloting program is difficult. But teachers who use these in their classroom, they put it on their Promethean board, or they direct it from their laptop on their LCD projector or smart boards. And so what we found was that for Pearson, which we ultimately chose, the student interfaces are fairly easy because we're able to select and choose and push out to them what they see. So what chapters they see, what supplemental materials they see. If we want them to do their interactive notebook online, we push that out to them. It's not everything at one time on the screen. So we streamline it for them. We filter it before we send it out to the student to use, and that can be done independently or through a Google Class assignment. So I don't know if that answered your question about student usage of that. From a teacher standpoint, it is easy as a drop-down listed menu, picking and selecting if you want adaptive materials, if you want to alter assessments and tests as well, what primary sources you want to assign. There's videos from NBC News for each of the chapters to pull people in, the students in. Again, manipulative graphic organizers that they can actually see on their digital format. Click it and then information will pop up. There's interactive timelines, maps, etc. on there. But we choose what the students see and when they see it, so they're not too distracted when you send them to a location to do an assignment or a discussion.
Part of the reason I think that that's a very important component is because, well, I mean, I like books, but I'm old. Okay? So obviously, it's a different world for our kids, and I think it's great for them to have a book in their hand, but that can't be the only thing. I love history, and so it's kind of like, it's naturally interesting to me, but that is not always the case for kids.
Sure.
So that engagement part of it, to try to make it interesting to them, I was glad to see that up there. Is that pretty universal between all of the adoptions? Because we're talking separate grade levels, group units. Is that?
Yes. So?
Yes.
Okay. Because that is a concern, and you know, technology is kind of where everybody's going. So I just want to make sure that, number one, it's accessible, and number two, that it's quality. Okay.
I would say that probably the least techie, and you guys can correct me on this side, is the K2 adopt recommendation, because of the mobility and the teachers being able to fit it into their classroom instruction. They went to something that is more like a magazine that they can use, like a weekly reader.
Sure.
So, but it does have online pieces to it, but it is not as techie as everything else, because it's K2. Am I wrong, Dave?
No, and it's also available that they can hook up to Clever, which is all our language arts and math is already hooked up to, so it's available that we can access it through that. So there's videos that are more interesting for the kids that they can watch, but we can share with them, or we can have it assigned for a center that they can look at. And with the magazine type, they suggested that we can even, once we're done with the unit, we can cut them up and put it in, you know, like some kind of a collage or some kind of poster. So it's something to try to give different things for the kids to keep them engaged on.
Okay, last question, and then I'll wait. All of that technology that you're talking about, how teacher friendly is it?
There's going to be a learning curve. With certain publishers more than others. Some of them are a little bit more user-friendly than others. Obviously, it's a new adoption, and with any new adoption, there's going to be just getting used to the new format, the new platform. But I think having been through it for a couple of months now, because we did do the mini pilot as well as kind of an extra pilot, we all got to a comfort level in that amount of time. And so while there might be some bumps, I think everyone will be able to manage it and use it effectively.
to be honest, with the McGraw-Hill. If we could have taken the McGraw-Hill textbooks and taken the Pearson internet component, the online component, that would have been the perfect marriage of curriculum for us. We voiced that to McGraw-Hill that they offered the same thing that Pearson does. Pearson was just cleaner and a little bit easier, and so we voiced that to them, and they know that's a concern for us. So when we do have these teacher trainings, that was number one on our kind of wish list for them, is that they really get us to a level where we feel comfortable using the online component, because they have a lot of great information and a lot of great tools. It was a little bit trickier than what we're used to, but again, once we get used to it, it'll be fine. It just takes a little while for us, so.
On the high school.
It takes longer for older people like you and I.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say on the
Now,
high
you must
school
be,
committee,
you must
we
talk
had-
about me. All right. Please, sir.
I think they had one,
Anything
they
else?
had one more response to you.
Oh.
You okay?
I was
Okay.
just gonna say, on the high school committee, we had newer teachers that are working along with veteran teachers, and that was a really nice lens to see the component of technology along with our old school textbook, lugging around the big old crates of things. So it was nice to see a variety of input on that. And that's where we found that Pearson wouldn't scare off teachers that might be hesitant or a little bit slow on the takeoff on the technology component, and they would actually use everything as opposed to reverting back to just, paper materials. It was open and adaptable enough for that. So.
One of the other things that we talked a little bit about is the whole assessment piece. At this point, history, social science do not give benchmarks, and we're not going to require. It will be an optional thing for teachers to give benchmarks if they would like. Usually with our first year, if we should go forward with this adoption, we allow teachers the flexibility to I don't like to, I say play, but use the program to become familiar with it before any kind of really structure is put in place, because until you've actually gone from point A to Z, it's hard to know what kind of changes you want to make and those kinds of things. And just like we've done with all our other programs, we drop some things and we add some things, because we only had a short time to pilot it. So, we're looking at those kinds of recommendations for teachers.
Okay. Real quickly, can you tell me what a mini pilot is and how that works?
Yeah, the mini pilot basically was, we talked to once the committee made their final 2 selections, we contacted the publishers and had the committee and then a few extra teachers that would fill in gaps so we'd have more data. And then they were expected to follow the same rules. So again, teaching 2 lessons out of each curriculum and then collecting data from both those teachers and students.
Okay, all right. And how long did that last?
Lasted some, without looking at a calendar, I believe it was a little shy of a month.
Okay, that is pretty many.
Well, and because it's the time that we have a lot.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask about next, is that, well, first of all, when was the last time we had an adoption for social studies?
2006.
Nothing's changed.
2006. So is this gonna get rid of the textbooks that talk about Senator Barack Obama?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. All right. How do you judge something as engaging for students?
We ask the students.
That's where you're
So the questions, again, the rubrics, and that's in the presentation, the rubrics asked what, after they scored, they were expected to come up with why they scored it that way. And overwhelmingly, for the final selections from the committee, the one resounding qualification from the students was this was engaging.
Okay.
Whether it was the textbook component, whether it was the online component, was these are the programs that got students talking about history and excited about it.
All right, good answer. And so obviously we're looking at implementing this coming school year. Do these publishers all have the materials available for us? Are all the materials currently available that you guys tested? Are they all available? You talked about blended learning, and I've heard something about some of the online stuff not being available at this time.
We have a commitment from our publishers to be able to I think they're all in the same boat. They're all under development. Some of them are further along, but most of them have all committed to having everything available to our teachers by the July 24th professional development days. And those teachers that are coming earlier might also have it available, but they have committed to that. So yes, the materials will be available. They will be here. I want to caution that. Depending on when we make a recommendation and when the board says okay
Right.
to go forward,
Sure.
is when the materials can be here. So, you know, the longer we delay out, the opportunity to get it here on time shrinks a little bit. We'd like to have everything in the warehouse by the 1st of July so that it could be in classrooms before teachers go. We'd also like to have it here for the teachers that want to come to the June trainings.
This ties in to the adoption of the next generation science standards next year. That's why two reasons we're in a hurry is because we haven't had an adoption for years and we need to get the material updated. The second reason is because next year, is it mandatory that we've got to do a new science adoption?
Two things to that. It's mandatory in the sense that we will not have standards aligned or NGSS aligned materials. So teachers, when staff or outside agencies come and look at our departments, we won't have those materials available because at that point, we won't have had science for 12 or 13 years also. And I believe that teachers, the comments I've heard from teachers they are anxious to get new science materials and they don't want to continue with the materials that they currently have.
So that's one of the main reasons we're pushing through this year to get this adopted, because if we didn't, then we'd be either trying to do 2 adoptions in 1 year, which would just be...
Yeah, I think the K-6 teachers would not like that very well.
They would be all over us on that.
How about that?
And the second, and if we didn't do 2, then we'd have to wait 2 more years to do the social studies adoption.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that all that's... All right, that's all I've got for questions right now on that. So we'll turn it over to the public. Any questions or comments on the science adoption?
Social
studies. Social studies.
Well, social science.
Social science. I was partially right.
People called it social studies, but now it's turned
social studies.
social science.
Martha.
Good evening again. Is it social studies or is it social science? That's been a topic of discussion recently. I, through the chair, would like to ask the panel, in terms of digital components of the course materials, can you describe some interactive activities that are available within the adoption? And I particularly am interested in middle school and high school. Are there any games, any other interactive activities, brainstorming that is digital versus paper-based? Or are we talking about digital worksheets versus a paper-based worksheet?
I can answer for the high school for Pearson. Starting off with, they have what's called an interactive notepad. So on their online text, that includes them being able to highlight, annotate, and it'll save to their account, as well as questions that you can pair and share, and they can type it in. You can have them do it on their own, and they can type it in, and it'll come. They can submit it to the teacher to view and look over. There are also the same graphic organizers that are in the textbook are also, I think, even more, lively on the electronic version, because you can put your mouse over it, your cursor over it, highlight certain areas. Facts will pop up. They can do videos online. They can comment back and forth. Pearson also has like a chat discussion that students can use. Some of us use it on Google Class right now as a comment, but Pearson has it within their program that you could pose a discussion question and the students can, with their name by it, write a comment in there, write an opinion in it. It could be an online class discussion at home. They could do it within the classroom. And so most of their worksheets are also, although they're in PDF, they can also be edited by the teacher. But more so for the students, it is interactive in that they can click on things, research, it'll bring them to different areas within Pearson, not necessarily on the internet, where it becomes very distracting.
And what about National Geographic?
For the National Geographic, the textbook is online. There are some interactive pieces to it where, like Beth said, they can click on different aspects of the textbook and it will pop up with more information or more graphics for that. There's also picture galleries where they can take a museum walk through what they're learning about, whatever concept they're learning about. They can look at different pictures that go with that. There are some very engaging videos that they have a team of explorers from National Geographic. It's obviously not just a textbook company. It's a worldwide company. And so they have a lot of access to archaeologists who are actually in the field at any given time. And so they have videos that go along with each unit that tie into what explorers are doing right now in the field. And then the students have access to those explorers where they can communicate and chat with those explorers, watch their TED Talks, and really feel like they're a part of what's going on with that explorer at any given time. The assessments can also be accessed online. I just did my own for the Greece unit that I taught from National Geographic and was able to integrate it really well with Google Form because it has a lot of variety to what's being assessed and how it's being assessed.
But are there any games or any interactive activities to make timelines, do mapping, anything in common with what was described for the Pearson adoption?
Not specifically. A lot of the interactive activities are outlined in more physical movement. There's a lot of description of activities where students are moving around the room, where they might go to a different corner based on what they agree with or disagree with. And they might have things like analysis, where you have a center circle and an outside circle and you're talking to each other, and if you disagree, you switch spots. So there's a lot more of physical interaction than there is online interaction, and that was a conscious decision that we made. We knew that it was not as strong in the technology component, and we decided that that was not our #1 priority as a history curriculum, because we felt that the interaction among the students and between the student and the teacher was more important than the student engaging with the screen for this particular subject.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Can I jump in with that? I think Martha asked a great question. And there are a lot of materials out there. You saw my wife was the one with the science kids. The stuff that is out there that she pulls through her computer, puts it on TV, lectures from UC Berkeley, UCSF, MIT, it's phenomenal. But it is not interactive. They watch the guy or gal lecture. Some of them are very engaging. Some of them are just kind of really boring. So I wanted to make sure that, is it interactive and engaging for the students where they can kind of explore something that's of interest to them within that textbook?
I think that with the way that the textbook is written, and we talked about this a lot in our group, we found, like Beth said, that the textbook is written in a very accessible way. The kids are excited about what they're reading about. The graphics and the pictures are amazing in the textbook. But there is a bit of a lack of the interaction online. So I'm not going to try to make something up.
No.
There are not games. That piece is missing from National Geographic, and we just felt that it had so many other strong attributes to it that we didn't want that to be, I guess, the deal breaker. McGraw-Hill is a very strong program. We felt that for the middle school, the textbook was, it was, I don't want to say it was boring, but it was not very engaging. It was like having a second language arts curriculum. The online component, while it was very strong, was completely overwhelming, as Mrs. Allard mentioned, was very overwhelming trying to figure out what you could accommodate in a 50-minute period, or for 6th grade, sometimes even less. And so we felt that as a whole, as far as accessibility and engagement and student success and interaction with each other and with their teachers, National Geographic was a stronger program, even though it does lack some of the technology components. However, saying that, it is a very new program, and it's still in development. And so who knows what it'll look like in 7 years. And we know that now, because of all of the digital pieces, these curriculums are growing and changing as we're using them. And so that's something that we're looking forward to. We've tried to keep a long-term big picture approach to what we are adopting, even though we know some of those pieces are not quite in place yet.
Thank you for answering my question. Appreciate it.
I'll make 2 comments. First of all, one of them is that these curriculums can always be supplemented by other things that we find online, and I would fully expect that to happen. I want to make a quick comment on the curriculum rollout and the training. I got to tell you, I'm concerned about the training. We have made a commitment that for individualized professional development for our teachers, and I, for one, am set on keeping that commitment. So it's going to be tough for you to figure out all the different ways that we've got to work to present the professional development for this particular curriculum. That's your job.
Actually, it's the committee's job. That's what they
Oh, is that right?
signed on to.
Okay.
When they elected to be committee members, they elected to work with me to roll
That's
out the
great.
professional development, roll out the assessments, and troubleshoot any of the problems.
They're gonna be our
Because I'm
experts in
not a
it.
one-man show. It's a group
Yeah.
of the teachers, so.
So we use the trainer concept and all.
And they're doing
Fantastic.
all the, they're
Before we
making.
go any further, Joe, I want to thank all of you so much for what you're doing.
Plus, I think we had some other members out in the
All of you.
balcony stages.
Raise your hands.
That, they also needed to.
Thank you, Kevin.
Please
They're all
feel
very
free to
much-
They're on the
come
back, they're in the back row.
Hey,
Why else would they be here?
they all did a fabulous job. I'm always surprised with what teachers do, and when they went out and talked to the students and everything, I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
They did a really good job.
What's engaging to you, huh?
Yes.
That's a great
Don't
question.
underestimate teachers.
Okay, Mr. Now, you wanted to?
Yes, I did. Closing, I don't know if you have any more comments, but
I think we've got Michelle here.
okay, well.
Wanna do her first?
I want to compliment this group, and I think this is a monumental task that you people have. You had a big game on 2006, but you weren't involved. Now you're involved in the 2018. Here's the captains right here. Thank you for your time that you put in tonight. I know you're gonna have to go teach tomorrow morning, and it's already 9:30, so I want to compliment you for all the work that you've done. You talked about blended, you talked about engaging, flexible, best coverage, streamlined online support, and you have a great team on your staff. The team has got the professional development, the volunteer professional development that you're going to do. I have complete confidence as a former teacher that you are on the right track and the right direction for this district to adopt these textbooks. Thank you.
Okay. Michelle? Thank you, Mr. Now.
To all the teachers, thank you for your time. And we heard that the call out to volunteers was challenging, and with everyone's schedule, we appreciate your dedication and thoroughness on this. We also appreciate and have heard comments about something that was mentioned tonight. I think it was Mr. Knackstead who said, why not do all one publisher? And I think teachers would appreciate that there was a choice and it was divided up by grade level, that they could make different publisher choices, and we have heard that in the past. With that said, I need to reiterate what Mr. Neely just said about professional development. With the announcement that social studies the committee had chosen something, the announcement of the June and July PD dates came out. I had some very upset teachers. One, their first week in June, to ask them to come back for something, and as they've heard from their peers and as we've heard tonight, the materials are underdeveloped. They're not finished developing them. I'm not sure what that means as to if those teachers show up that first week, will they be trained on everything that those teachers that come in July be trained in? And with that, I need to remind the board of our MOU with the RBET committee that was working on professional development. And part of that RBET committee gave charge to the professional development at the district to continue with the same model for the beginning of the school year as we did last year, with choices. Surveys from the professional development had been set out by Ms. Flemmer with asking for presenters and asking for ideas of what they wanted to see. My understanding is that we had a great response. And I worry that we're taking those choices away and narrowing that to where the RBET said, hey, this was moving the ship in the right direction of choice. And my members didn't hear that in the emails. So they got conflicting. So if we can look at other times for the professional development and not necessarily the first week they're on vacation and the first week back when they were hoping to see that choice PD, that would be great. There have been questions about the curriculum policy, and Mike, I don't know if you're able to pull up on the board report. It was the items below the PowerPoint on the agenda. For example, the K2 science textbook PD. Boy, yours looks very different than mine. If you'll click on that, I think it's a doc. So if you'll scroll up just a little bit. Thank you. Part of this adoption was giving Curriculum Council the opportunity to look at it. I know it's come before Curriculum Council, and they heard the PowerPoint has expanded since Curriculum Council, and a couple of us commented that a couple of those slides were really great to explain part of the voting process to see. However, both Curriculum Council members and members of our district, when you look at the review, that textbooks would be made available 2 weeks prior to the Curriculum Council meeting for council members to review. That didn't happen. So that's just one little piece in how this review process is happening. That are we doing everything that we said we would do and go through so that there is total transparency on what people can see and had to make their choices about. We have heard that it was stated, and maybe Mrs. Katowski could answer this, about all of the pieces. It was reported to myself that all of the textbooks, all of the publishers that you saw were not 100% finished. And as we learned with the EL, we were told on some of the technology pieces it was not finished. And I think we've all heard those comments about afterwards, then we needed to do some tweaking and changing because the committee of teachers who voted on it didn't see all the pieces. And they were upset that they didn't have access. So
if I could answer that question, I would like to share that when we started this process, and maybe these committee members can offer their opinions, I did share with every committee member the concern that has been brought up about are the materials, how can I say this in a politically correct way? Don't get sold on a bill of goods. How's that? If a publisher comes in and says, this is the answer, this is the whipped cream, but we don't have it done, they need to give serious consideration to not looking at those materials. Because we learned from the last process that, you know, things don't always fall the way that the publisher thinks they're gonna fall. It takes a lot of coding, it takes a lot of writing. And so I expressed concern about that, but at the same time, every single publisher is in the same boat. They're developing as they are flying down the road. It'll be the same with our NGSS next year because the state board just approved these lists in November. So those are the materials that we look at. The publishers have those prototypes available and they are working as fast as they can to get things done. But the teachers knew going in, my preference was not any program that wasn't prepared, but when they looked at the programs, I believe they made the judgment to go with what they saw based on what they worked out. Did I not say that?
Yes, and I can only speak for Pearson. The only thing they were left developing was the California edition textbook, but on the 9th through 12th grade levels for the core subject areas, their program was developed. There were other publishers that said this is coming, and that might be one of the reasons why we chose not to go with a publisher because it was a key component that they couldn't deliver to us before the school year began. But for Pearson, it was just a textbook, and they're in the process of loading all those online. That for the high school one, that was the only one that was missing.
For the 3rd through 5th grade, everything is ready. The only thing that wasn't ready was a couple very minor online components. So for the most part, the curriculum was finished. Everything that we needed to move on was done, and it wasn't a deal breaker of what wasn't completed yet.
Do you know what online components weren't done?
I think it was a minor tweaking of like the voice that reads that translates the Spanish to English. They didn't like the robotic voice, or it was something very minor like that, where they were just gonna make little minor tweaks like that to make it a little bit more engaging.
Some of the organization of the display online and the actual thumbnails that people would click on, those things are changing. But
for the most part, they're done.
Michelle, hold on just a second, Bonnie.
Can I make a comment, Michelle, in between? I really appreciate what you're saying and your concern for everything that you're voicing. I just have to jump in here because I'm like the old babe history teacher. I mean, I still am a total history geek, and I believe that everyone that teaches history, it's like your subject. And for heaven's sake, you haven't had a new book since 2006. I find that so unacceptable. It's so unacceptable. And I know those textbooks back in the old days when I was teaching still, they were not what you've described, what you've chosen, what the committee's chosen. These highly engaging, just the word engaging never was used with the old textbooks. We know nothing about what you had in high school, for heaven's sake. And to hear you say that the middle school piece, that 6th through 8th grade piece, that you chose the National Geographic because it's important for those kids to talk to each other. And if they're talking about history, like my heart sings, truly. So I think, I know what you're saying, Michelle, but I mean, let's get going on this, because otherwise, what are we gonna do? Just sit on our hands and worry, and then meanwhile, you're still stuck with those old books. So I say, just go for it. And I so appreciate, as Mr. Nava said, I love the committee approach. It's everything that you told us tonight. You did this first class. All the way, first class. You involved a lot of people, you did it very systematically, it made sense, you're doing I don't even know what the Google whatever it is that you do, but you're reaching out to everybody. I mean, my gosh, what more could you ask for? So my opinion, the old history teacher that I am, and I always will be, go for it. Let's get it, let's get this ordered and get the show on the road.
Mr. President.
Chuck?
I would thank Michelle and Martha for their comments, but great job, committee. I join in my colleagues' comments, and I am very excited about this. I can't wait for the next meetings that we can approve of this. Sure, things aren't being done because history's still being made, right? History's happening today, so they want to pack in as much as they can to the limit so that when we change books in 12 years, we will have things like the stock market dropping 400 points a day and things that are being made. And what an outstanding job. I thought the committee approach was outstanding. The criteria that they graded on was spectacular. I'm not going to go over what Mr. Novel went through, but looking at the interaction, the online aspects of it, the English learner aspects were fantastic. And then the choice, the K2 choice of the Studies Weekly. I got to tell you, how innovative was that? It's a bold choice, but it really makes a lot of sense for our younger students. So I am completely in support of this. I thank all the teachers that came here tonight because you obviously didn't come to stick around for our policy changes. You came here because this matters to you, and you know what, it matters to us. And you did an outstanding job, and these recommendations, these are clear-cut winners. I mean, there was no 51-49 type votes on these things. You really worked these things through. So great job, Lisa. Great job, Charles. And great job, committee. I can't wait to pass these and get this rolling.
Okay, let's hold on a second there, and I want you to finish up what you were.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the questions that came out as it being underdeveloped and what we will get when will the online be an automatic subscription in part of the price that was listed? So as they're updating and changing the curriculum over the years, do you know if that will be?
The rules of the game are that they can't make any changes for the first 2 years of the adoption, and then after that, they can update the online component to keep it current. They will not change the textbook, but they update the technology piece of it. So we could, if we go 12 years, have a 12-year-old textbook, but the online component will be right on par with the current events.
Thank you.
Well, making that question to that, thank you, Michelle, is that, let's say in 3 years, they have an online update.
It'll be there, pushed out.
Right. Now, do we pay extra for that, or is because we went through them, that comes along with the whole package deal?
That comes along with the whole package.
That's the answer I wanted to hear.
The last was as the technology committee has been meeting and discussing one-to-one rollout, and an issue of mine is equity and making sure that every student that goes home has what they need to do their homework and study, etc. I'm assuming that with this adoption, there is both a digital piece and a textbook piece that everyone can go home with so that we are not Williams negligent. Is that correct?
Is that directed to me? Yes, it is correct.
Thank you. And with the one-to-one rollout, I believe with the professional development, that's another piece that we should talk about being added for those sites that do go one-to-one next year.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much for those points. We're gonna, anyone else? I need to move this along because we're out of here at 10 o'clock, but Mr. Novel's gonna hit me and told me he was. All right. I am concerned about, like I said, the professional development, and I think you guys did a fantastic job. Real quick, I love that K2 idea. That's a newspaper thing that comes out weekly. So how long do we get that for that price?
For the life of the adoption, for the life of our selection, so for 7 years.
But we have, it's $52, it says, per student.
Yes,
So how often do we pay that?
every year.
Once?
Yeah. We pay
And then
them.
they're gonna provide us with
Just
papers
like-
for the rest of our,
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's just like buying a textbook.
buying
The
candy.
textbook stays.
Yeah, that's what
you
I'm
buy a
thinking.
textbook
Okay.
for $52.
would you check that for me, just for, and just send me an email,
All
okay?
right.
All right, that's all. All right, can we get, board direction, move ahead with this?
Yes.
Yes, yes, no, okay. Great, guys, thank you so much for what you've done. Fantastic job. I appreciate it. All right, board, we're gonna be quick about this. The next item on the agenda is proposed board policy revisions. Lisa, this is, there are way too many of these to talk about tonight. Here's what I would like to do. We do have two on there that we need to move forward, and that's on the universal complaint procedure. It's 1312.3, I think, right? Both the policy and the rule. We need to move those forward. That's the only thing that's time sensitive on this. So if I can get board direction to move those two items forward. Okay, there we go. So you've got that. I want to say that I'm concerned about the number of board policies that come out and that were given to us on a Friday afternoon, and we're expected to talk about it intelligently on Tuesday. That's just not going to happen. Also, especially this list, there's some important items on that list. I don't think it's a matter of bringing it up once for report and then once for a vote. I think we're going to have to, some of those things we need to share. We need to, there's a thing there about professional development. And there's, we do things a little differently here now, all right? And whoever brought those forward, I think it probably came from CSBA, right? Is that where we got those?
Correct.
Yeah, because, CSBA, they do a generic board policy that fits a lot of people, and it's in a Word format, and we can change it. So a lot of those things we need to talk about for our group with the RVET, professional development in particular. That's one.
But they also address certain rules and regulations that
have to be.
Have to cover.
Yes,
So,
and that's,
laws.
I'm not saying, well, I'm saying what we need to do is there needs to be a discussion of that, and it needs to be adapted for us, okay? And some of it isn't things that have to be. CSBA, they write a good sample policy, and it's a great resource, and that's exactly what I would have done, is brought that forward. But I think we need to look at that a little bit differently for what we're doing. We're doing things differently with the RBET and that, so we're trying real hard to get input before we make a decision, okay? So maybe if we broke those up into smaller chunks, that would help a lot. So I'd expect to see maybe no more than 10 at the very most. I like 5 better myself, but.
That's perfectly fine. I
okay.
just want to say that a lot of those are updates because the LCAP changes every so often, so we had to add the LCAP language.
Doesn't it drive you crazy?
And no longer, we do not have No Child Left Behind, so then we have to update it for S.
Right.
Those are most of the major changes of anything that's
Sure.
up there, those types of activities.
But use it as an opportunity, though, to bring them up in small chunks, and then we get everybody to talk about them here, and then we can move forward.
Not a problem.
Okay?
And just keep piggybacking up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move that forward. It's just a report, so we don't need any vote on that or anything else. Okay.
Mr. Finley?
Sir?
I didn't have an opportunity. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what you said. I am concerned about the professional development for the adoption. I just wanted to add another voice to that. We need to seriously figure out how we're going to do the training.
Keep the commitment that we made.
We have commitments that have priority over convenience.
Sure.
I just want to add on to what Mr. Meehan said.
And I'm excited to see how you guys are going to figure that out. It's going to be innovative. And we're all going to be happy.
Anxiously awaiting.
Okay. Any board advisory committee reports? None. Call for a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you guys very much.
Dr. Washer, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I stopped the menu. Starting the topic is. I'll walk this tomorrow. We'll get this for your graduation tomorrow. It is what we make. Okay. So, I'd like to start with something like that. It worked on my phone. I mean, it wasn't written out. It's about teaching kids how to be present. That's what it has to do. That it works for the board. That's true. Good. I'm going to get a hold of you. Okay, all right.